Matthew, we're at Circuit Riders Conference here, and amongst this sort of group of technical experts, one would expect quite a lot of people enthusing about open source software. But we're also talking a lot about open, transparent, collaborative ways of doing things in society.
Yes, David, that's right. Well, what I see is quite a fundamental shift occurring in the paradigms with which people interact. If you look at how open source and free software work, it's all about sharing and collaborating. They say that GNU Linux cost about 2.6 billion euros, according to the European report. And what I see is that philosophy, that methodology, that paradigm beginning to ooze out into other elements of our society. For example, there's now open archaeology, there's the Wikipedia, there's open government, and even, I think you know yourself, open funding bids. And I find this really exciting, and the way that that's working.
What's the lessons from the way in which open source software is developed for anyone wanting to use open collaborative methods for doing other sorts of things?
Okay, I think they translate very well. The first thing is documentation. You document your group's objectives and what you're doing, so that new members can find out how to join, and that's very important, so that no two people can get a different idea about what the project's about, and people can choose whether they want to participate or not. And the next thing is open decisions, and asking people to read the archives of those decisions, so that often more disruptive elements, newcomers, and don't disrupt the group by repeatedly go over old decisions which you've already made, and staying focused on your goal and not diversifying. And if diversification wants to occur, then allowing another group to split off and do that. Those are the sort of main concepts as far as I can see.
And I've also heard about the value of breaking things down into small chunks.
Yeah.
So the small groups of people can work on fixing things, developing things.
I think when I'm starting off a project, I like to work on with a very small group of people to start with, so that you can get a very clear idea of what it is that you're up to. But as a group, you have to be very careful about bike shed. Well, if you don't know the bike shed phenomena, have a look at Google search for bike shed. I think it's bikeshed.com, and that's the phenomena whereby there's a large group of people working on a fairly large project, and a small element within that starts to argue about the colour of the bike shed when they might be working on building a nuclear power plant. So be very careful about not worrying too much about the minutiae and arguing over it, rather staying on the bigger picture. It's important.
And how democratic is the open process? I think Wikipedia has a fairly tight core of people amongst the many others that are contributing.
I'm not sure that it's a democracy in the classical way of thinking about it in terms of voting. I would see it's more down to kudos and meritocracy, and trusting relationships and respect relationships between people. If you trust somebody and respect them, then you're more likely to understand and go with their viewpoint.
And I think underlying all of this is the sense that attitude is really important. So where do you find attitudes that are helpful towards collaborative development and attitudes that aren't?
Attitudes are absolutely fundamental. The difficulty is we live in a culture of division and debate, rather than seeking to see what we've got in common. We also live in a culture where business confidentiality is key to being able to make your money. So trying to fit that in with a collaborative environment it can be quite challenging, especially if you're old school or managerial type organisations which aren't so flexible about sharing IP, or about looking at new licenses, for example, and working openly and accountably online. I think that's the major challenges for those sort of organisations to get the hang of that.
But I think that whether as trainers, consultants, circuit riders or whatever, there is the question of can you find ways of putting bread on the table?
Expertise will always be paid for, and I think that's the key. It's a shift in the market from false walled garden marketplaces through actual real expertise being delivered locally. I think that's a key fundamental shift in the whole economy that has to occur.
But we do feel that the open marketplace is growing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, David.